Welcome to another Ask Me Anything event. If you're watching this on YouTube, I invite you to join me live next time. We have these every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you can join for free by starting your free trial on quantreasoning.com. All right, so the first question we're going to look at today is this question. It's a Manhattan Prep question, but it's a pretty interesting one. So just looking at the word quadrant, it looks like they're testing positives and negatives, right? Because the thing that will determine which quadrant we are in is the sign of our x-coordinate and our y-coordinate. If they're both positive, we'll be in quadrant number 1. If the x is negative but the y is positive, we'll be in quadrant number 2. If it's the other way around, it'll be quadrant number 3. Excuse me, quadrant number 3 is where they're both negative, and then quadrant number 4 is where x is positive and y is negative. And they're just asking for which of the following could be in the same quadrant as point AB. When I see the word could in a GMAT question, it always makes me chuckle, because it's like, if they don't know, how am I supposed to know? Like, what do you mean could? Like, seriously, you guys don't know? But what it means is that we need to find an answer choice that can work in some cases, but isn't necessarily always going to work. That's what they mean by the word could. And I think process of elimination is probably a good way to approach this question. You see, whatever the sign of A is and whatever the sign of B is, in answer choice B, they're exactly the opposite. So there's no way that answer choice B could ever be in the same quadrant as A and B. Whatever A was, if A was positive, negative A is negative, and vice versa. If B was positive, negative B is negative, and vice versa. So it's not going to be in the same quadrant. We can eliminate answer choice D for the same reason. Just looking at the y-coordinate of answer choice D, you've got a negative B versus a positive B. How could B and negative B be in the same quadrant? It's impossible. So those two answer choices, B and D, are gone. Now, looking at answer choice C, just to analyze that for a moment, what's happening in answer choice C? B, which used to be the y-coordinate, is now the x-coordinate. So let's think about that for a moment. If what was your y-coordinate is now your x-coordinate, and you want that to still be in the same quadrant, under what circumstances would that happen? Any thoughts on that? Under what circumstances would you still be in the same quadrant when your y-coordinate turns into your x-coordinate? How could you stay in the same quadrant that you were in? If turning your y-coordinate into your x-coordinate will not move you to a different quadrant, then that means they have to be the same sign. Because if they were opposite signs, then substituting your y-coordinate into your x-coordinate flips your sign for the x-coordinate, and then you won't be in the same quadrant anymore. So the only way to stay in the same quadrant when you substitute your y-coordinate for your x-coordinate is if your x and y-coordinates were the same sign. Otherwise, that substitution will flip the sign of your x-coordinate, and now you're not going to be in the same quadrant anymore. So answer choice C could only work if A and B had the same sign. But what's the problem with that? What's the problem if A and B have the same sign? Then what's the problem with answer choice C? Your y-coordinate has now the opposite sign of what it used to have. So if AB was in the top, so quadrants 1 or 2, now it's going to be in the bottom in quadrants 3 or 4. And vice versa. If this was in quadrants 3 or 4, now it's going to be in quadrants 1 or 2, because in the scenario where A and B have the same sign, which that would have to be the scenario if C has any chance because of the x-coordinate, well, now the y-coordinate is a problem. Now the y-coordinate flipped its sign, and you're no longer going to be in the same quadrant. So the conclusion is that it's impossible for answer choice C to ever be in the same quadrant as A and B. Now let me just repeat that one more time. Why is that? It's because in order for it to have any chance of being in the same quadrant, A and B would have to have the same sign. They're either both positive or both negative. The reason I say that is because now your x coordinate is what used to be your y coordinate. So it's because this B moves from the y coordinate to the x coordinate. In order for you to stay in the same quadrant, it has to have the same sign as what used to be your x coordinate, your A. But if they are the same sign, what happens to your y coordinate? It used to be B, now it's negative A. But if B and A are the same sign, then B and negative A are opposite signs. So we wanted to maintain the same sign for our x coordinate and the same sign for our y coordinate, because that's the only way to stay in the same quadrant. And answer choice C simply won't allow us to do so. So we started by eliminating B and D. Now we see that answer choice C won't work either. From the remaining two answer choices, can you see an answer choice that fails for the same reason that C failed? E fails for the same reason that C fails. Let's go through the analysis one more time. In order for answer choice E to be in the same quadrant as the original point, AB, A and B would have to have the same sign, because that's the y coordinate. But if A and B have the same sign, then A and negative B have opposite signs, which again puts you in a different quadrant, and that eliminates E. Here's how my eyes look at the slide. Okay, so my eyes are doing the following. They're saying I have my x coordinate of A compared to negative B, negative A, B, A, and negative B. So I'm comparing that on the one hand. And separately, I'm going to look at the y coordinate, and I'm going to compare that to each of these. And I'm going to ask myself, is it possible for any of these answer choices, is it possible that the orange highlight has the same sign as the orange highlight, and also, simultaneously, that the green highlight has the same sign as the green highlight for that answer choice? And only one of those answer choices allows for that possibility, that that the orange highlight has the same sign as the orange highlight, and also the green highlight has the same sign as the green highlight. The other four answer choices don't allow for that possibility, and that means we should eliminate them. So let's look at this next question, also from Manhattan Prep. Any thoughts as to what might be the most important words in the question stem here? The free info? Yeah, probably the word consecutive is the one that people tend to miss. And so we're talking about positive consecutive integers, and we're just going from 1 to x. Now I don't know what x is, so if x is 2, for example, then it's just a set 1, 2. If x is 15, then the set is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way up to 15, but it's all of the integers from 1 to whatever x is. And they're asking for the median, so I just want to ask all of you, how would you rephrase this question? In other words, what would we need to know in order to find the median of this set? Find out what is the biggest number. In other words, find out what is x. Yeah, and JD, what you said isn't wrong. You could rephrase it as what's the average. But I would just ask what's x. Because if I know x, I can find the average. If I know the average, I can find x. And this is because the set, let me put this another way. The free info was so powerful in this case that knowing just one thing would allow me to infer all of the information that I could possibly want. In other words, I would know exactly what the set is if I knew what x is. I would know exactly what the set is if I knew the median. I would know exactly what the set is if I knew the average. I would know exactly what the set is if I knew the range. Really, any piece of information that I can think of related to sets, in this case, would be enough to show me the whole picture. There would be nothing left to the imagination. We would know everything we would possibly want to know. Yeah, that's right. If we knew how many terms there are in the set, that would be enough. If we knew the range, it would be enough. If we knew the average, it would be enough. If we knew the median, it would be enough. Any single piece of information about the set would be enough to reveal the entire picture. Which means the correct answer is D. Each statement is sufficient on its own. Let's move on. Another Manhattan GMAT question. So there is a very mechanical algebraic approach to solving this question. We know that with inequalities, really the one thing that we can do, the one inference we can make with two inequalities is we can say that the sum of the two bigger sides will be greater than the sum of the two smaller sides. So, just combining the free info with statement 1, we could say r plus s plus t, that's the sum of the bigger sides, is greater than, and then the sum of the smaller sides is 2t plus s. And then you'd subtract t from both sides and subtract s from both sides, and you'd get r is greater than t. Does that answer the question? Yeah, it gives us a definitive yes. So we can eliminate BCE. Similarly for statement 2 on its own, so I'll take the bigger of the two sides, so that's r plus s plus r. I'm just adding the big side of the free info with a big side of statement 2. And we'll say that's greater than, now we're adding the smaller side, so 2t plus s. Subtracting s from both sides, we get 2r is greater than 2t, and then dividing both sides by 2, we get r is greater than t. Does that answer the question definitively? Yeah, it's the same as statement 1, and we can pick D. So that's the mechanical algebraic way to solve it, but I want to explore a number line reasoning based approach because I think that we'll learn something from it. The question and the statements are all talking about r, s, and t, but unfortunately, the free info is about rs and 2t. So the question to all of you is, can you think of a way to simplify / rephrase the free info onto a number line such that it's kind of talking about rs and t instead of 2t? I just don't really know what to do with 2t in the context of the question and the statements. So it's interesting you mentioned the relative position of zero because yeah, we have no idea where 0 is on the number line. I'm not sure though that we need to know where 0 is on the number line, but it's a really good question to ask, especially in data sufficiency. You should always ask yourself, as I draw this number line, do I know where 0 would fit in the context of these unknowns? And do I care where 0 would fit? And looking at what they're asking, is r greater than t? I don't know that I need to know where 0 lies on our number line. But you rephrase the free info brilliantly. That's exactly the rephrase that I was going for. If we divide both sides by 2, we find out that the average of r and s sits to the right of t. That's correct. So how would we draw that on a number line? We'd say, here's r and here's s, or the other way around, right? I don't know which one is bigger. But what I do know is that their average is where? Exactly the midpoint. Exactly the midpoint. The average is right there. And we were told in the free info that that average is to the right of t. That means that t lies somewhere in that cloud to the left of our arrow. Now, without looking at the statements, can I answer the question? Do I know whether or not r is greater than t? No, I don't know. I mean, if r and s are located where I drew them, the answer would be, I don't know if r is greater than t. But if it's the other way around with that double-sided arrow, if r is the one on the right, then that's a definitive yes. So, but I don't know. I don't know which one of them is r and which one of them is s, so I can't answer the question. And if I could answer the question without going to the statements, then I must have misunderstood the question, because we have to use at least one of the statements in order to answer the question. Is there an answer choice that says we don't need the statements? No, that's not a thing. But that's a good way to kind of verify that you understood the question correctly. It's like, try to answer it without the statements, and if you can, then you misunderstood the question. All right. So looking at statement I think I'd start with, I don't know, I'd start with statement 2, I think, in this case. Statement 2 seems to me a bit easier to evaluate, because if we're told that r is to the right of s, then we do know the relative order of r and s. Right? R is to the right. And we're asked, is r to the right of t? Well, if t is in this cloud and r is here, then that's a definitive yes. So statement 2 is sufficient on its own. Now with statement 1 on its own, so we don't know this anymore, but what we do know is t is to the right of s. Is it possible that t is to the right of s if s is here? If that's s, could it be possible that t is to the right of it? No, so s must be here, which means this is r. Is r to the right of t? Yes, it must be. So each statement is sufficient on its own. So our next question, which is also from Manhattan, is, I think, copied off of a real official GMAT question, which I have here as well. So I thought it would be fun to kind of go together through the Manhattan question and then give you all an opportunity to try the actual official GMAT question right afterwards and see if you can apply what you learned from the Manhattan question on the official question. So this is the Manhattan question. It's data sufficiency. So what do you think? Any free info in this question? I'm joking. It's only all of this up to the word is. And just a little bit of free info. Any fans of fractions here? Anybody a fan? Huh? One person? What do I suggest in my book about dealing with fractions? I talk about a concept called zooming in by a certain factor so that they're not fractions anymore. What factor do you think we ought to zoom in by to turn all of these into integers? Exactly. So let's zoom in by a factor of 90. I'm going to start typing up here on the top what the numbers would be if we just gave everything a factor of 90, and you can all work on that simultaneously as I do this here. Just multiplying each of them by 90. 1/6 of 90. Now 1/15 of 90 would be 6, but I have two of them, 2/15. So that's 12. This would be 3. This would be 2. And this would be 18. Okay, so now we're not dealing with fractions anymore. We're dealing with integers. And the other kind of major piece of free info, I think, was this. So you've got before Friday, and you've got from Friday. And you split the week into two parts. Before Friday and from Friday on. And we want to do more than half, but don't forget we zoomed in by a factor of 90. So let's actually rephrase that to more than 45, because 45 is half of 90. So more than 45 done before Friday. That's me rephrasing the free info. And just as we did in the previous question, I want to try to answer the question without the statements, just as a way to make sure that I understood it correctly. Because remember, we shouldn't be able to answer it without the statements. So without the statements, is it possible that subtask S, which was 12 units of work out of 90, right? Is it possible that that was done before Friday? Not knowing anything else, we know that more than 45 units were done before Friday. Could it be that subtask S, which is 12 units, was done before Friday? Sure, I don't see why not. Is it possible it was done after Friday? Yeah, also could be, because we know that up to 44 units of work were done from Friday on, and that's only 12 units. So yeah, it could fall on either side. So now I'm ready for the statements. Let's just go in order because they look pretty similar. So statement 1 says that R, which is here, that's 15 units, is completed on Friday. And V, which is here, is 18 units, is completed on Saturday. So we've got 15 plus 18, that's 33 units of work were done from Friday on. And we know that that's capped at 44, right? Because more than half, more than 45 units were done before Friday. So this Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing is capped at 44, and we already have 33. The question was about subtask S. S was 12. Could you fit another 12 if this is capped at 44?
No, because then you'd be at 45.
Which means S must have been done before Friday. So statement 1 forces S into the before Friday camp. Again, I'm thinking of it as two camps. You've got your before Friday and you've got from Friday. Before Friday is at least 46 units of work. From Friday on is at most 44 units of work. If you're telling me already that we have 33 units of work in there, I can't fit another 12. That forces S, subtask S, to be completed before Friday, and that means that statement 1 is sufficient on its own. It gives us a definitive yes. So we can eliminate BCE. The second statement talks about P and Q, putting them both in the first camp, in the before Friday camp. So P is 30, Q is 10, so that gives us a total of 40 for the first camp. Could we fit another 12 in that first camp? We know that first camp has to be at least 46. So yeah, we could put another 12 in there. Could we not put the 12 in there? Would it be possible to not put the 12 in there? Because I have to be able to show both a yes and a no. It's not enough just to show that I could put the 12 in the first camp. I need to also show I could put it in the second camp. But we really don't have any reason to think that it would be in one camp versus the other. It could be in either camp, because the second camp can have up to 44, and this is only 12. So yeah, it could be in either camp, and therefore statement 2 is not sufficient on its own. And we can go ahead and pick answer choice A. Official GMAT question. Did everybody else use 60 to zoom in?
Yep.
Great, so let's do that. So a quarter of 60, 15, and 1/5 of 60 is 12, and 1/6 of 60 is 10, and 3/20, well, 1/20 is 3, so 3/20 would be 9. 1/15 would be 4, so 2 of them would be 8. And 1/10 of 60 is 6. So those are our numbers. And I think again we have like camp 1, camp 2, just like in the previous question. And again we're told that the value was greater than half in the first truck. So again, more than half in camp 1. Let's not call it camps, let's call it trucks, because that's what they are in this case. So truck 1, truck 2. We know that truck 1 had more than half of the value, so more than half of 30. And truck 2 would then have less than 30. So these are the limitations on each truck. And we want to know which truck was this 10, this value of 10, which truck was it in? That's what we want to know. So statement 1 tells us that the 12 and the 9 were in truck 1. So that gives us 21. 21 are already spoken for. Is it possible that that this 10 also goes in there? Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, we want it to be more than 30, so you could put the 10 here. Is it possible that the 10 is not here? Could the 10 be here? Yeah, sure, the 10 could be here and all the others could be here. And the difference between this question and the previous question is that here, based on the free info, all 6 shipments could be on a single truck. Right? Maybe the second truck is empty, for all we know. Okay? So I think that makes it an easier question than the previous one. Because for all I know, everything is on truck 1, and truck 2 is empty. Or maybe this shipment of 10 is in truck 2. So statement 1 does not answer the question definitively. The third shipment could be on either truck with statement 1. So let's go ahead and eliminate AD. Statement 2 tells us that the 15 and the 6 were in the second truck. So now we already have 21. Right? 15 plus 6 is 21. Let me delete what came here from statement 1. So we only have statement 2. We only know that there's 21 here. Could this 10 be on truck 1? Sure. Could it be in truck 2? No, because it has to be under 30, and we already have 21 there, so we cannot put another 10 there. So statement 2 does force the third shipment to be on truck 1, and therefore it is sufficient on its own. It tells us that, yes, S3 was on the first truck, and therefore the correct answer is B. If you found this video useful, go to quantreasoning.com for a lot more where that came from. You should also click that like button and let me know in the comments below what you'd like me to make future videos about. And of course, if you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and do that and click that bell below so you get notified about future videos. See you next time.